से मेरे में नहीं आता। हो गया? ये तो सेटिंग अप आ रहा है। Good evening, everybody. Today we have a very special guest, and as you may be noticing, we are changing gears and topics, everything one by one. But you will be happy to know that even though we change our topics, apparently, they all converge to a singular one-point agenda. We we are basically seeking the universal truth, whether by understanding the science or spirituality, or we are trying to generate evidence from Ayush systems or from the study of molecular biology, medical science. So there is some sort of a unity. In search of that, we have invited Dr. Surendra Singh Pokharana. A lot of you may already be knowing about him. He is a famous former scientist of Indian Space Research Organization, and he has been working in ISRO, which is also a famous name, more commonly known rather than Indian Space Research Organization. Our Prime Minister was there a few months back to inaugurate one particular launch, and we saw him there. So Dr. Surendra Singh Pokharana has worked with the ISRO for last 19 years, and he was also the CEO of an American IT company for 5 years. And he has about 150 publications, which includes papers, scientific notes,
it's 6 o'clock.
Technical notes, essays, articles in the field of physics. So he's a postgraduate in operations research. He has a PhD in physics, and he has a postdoctoral training in biophysics. So that combines the physics and brings them a little close to biology, which is very, very interesting. And he has some grasp of Jainism, Indian philosophy and culture also. And he was involved in starting a science and spirituality research institute in Ahmedabad. And he's live from Ahmedabad at this moment. And that's his first slide. He works on consciousness. And there he is with us. Welcome, sir. Welcome, Dr. Singh, to our program. And you are all here with your slides, and we look forward to hearing from you what you have to say about Anima Siddhi, Annie Besant, and the structure of atoms. This is a apparently very not so cohesive title, but I'm sure you are going to you're going to unify them in some way, and we look forward to seeing how you unify this concept. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Sri Akshay Anandji and Vinodji, for inviting me to deliver this webinar and introducing me. I feel honored about this recognition. Now I will, because of lack of time and so much material and complexity of the topics, I will straight away go to the slides actually without wasting time. Now, I dedicate this paper to my parents who has always encouraged me to work in the field of science and spirituality, how to combine the two. It was fascinating thing for me to do work in this field right from my early childhood, or say, from young age. Now, acknowledgement, I am grateful to Postgraduate Institute of Medical Education and Research, Chandigarh, who are conducting this series of webinars. It was merely by chance that I clicked his schedule of their previous programs and found these activities. So I was very excited about the whole thing, and when they invited me, I was feeling very actually obliged. Now, actually in this series, you are just talking about yoga and advanced yoga practices, pranayama and all these things, and how can they be helpful for improving the health and so on. But actually in Patanjali Yoga Sutra, they talk about higher states of consciousness also. And some of the higher states of consciousness involve siddhis as well. Now, I was associated with Maharishi Mahesh Yogi also and his organization, and there I have seen a demonstration of a flying siddhi in 1978-79 in Bangalore. So due to flying siddhi, one person can jump actually by say 8 feet, 9 feet just while sitting in the Padmasana posture. So this was very fascinating for me. And then I became somehow, I don't know, I was interested in working in science and spirituality from last 30, 40 years actually. So I have seen some papers of parapsychology in Nature about 40 years ago. And there I came across the work of Annie Besant also. Annie Besant was there in India. She was actually president of the Theosophical Society and she was graduate of chemistry in London University. Actually, when she came to India, she learned about the siddhis and all these things. So she wanted to do some experiments on structure of atom. That is to study the structure of atom using Anima Siddhi. And as you know, Anima Siddhi is actually Hanumanji knew 8 siddhis. It is very well known, I mean, and out of those 8 siddhis, one was this Anima Siddhi. And what is this Anima Siddhi? Anima Siddhi is the ability to reduce one conscious body to smallest possible size. The Siddhi offers the practitioner the practical knowledge and understanding of the most delicate interconnections of matter, space, and energy, and the ability to manipulate it through mind. A psychic power associated with this Siddhi is the ability to control the density of an object or one's body such that one could walk through solid matter. Now, actually, in this era, people will laugh at me that what nonsense I am talking associate with ISRO and just making such statements. But then we went into the whole thing very deeply and very seriously. Now, and I have tried to combine this work with work of Jainism also. So we found some evidences of these possibilities in Jainism also. And in Jainism, as you see below, in the green text, existence of some Vakriya and Aharik Sharir is possible in addition to the physical body. We generally talk about astral body, for example. So whether these things are involved in this, so we just went on doing some analysis, but we were looking for some quantitative studies. So we started some quantitative studies. Now, these are the 3 persons. Annie Besant is in between, and she had 2 colleagues. The one was Charles Webster Leadbeater, and another was this Krupu Mulek Jinraj Dasa. And these people have developed actually what is now known as the occult chemistry. That is studying the chemistry using occultism. And she actually developed this from about 1895 to 2032. I mean, this 1932, so 100 years ago, she actually developed this discipline and she learned this Anima Siddhi, and her colleagues also learned this Anima Siddhi, and they wanted to study the structure of the atoms. Now, I will come to this now. I will start with one very simple example. If you look at this figure, it shows structure of hydrogen atom. Now, on the left, I have put the structure of hydrogen atom as we see in the modern science. That is, there is a proton at the center and it is surrounded by an electron which is moving around it. So we have this proton and electron as a structure of hydrogen atom. But what Annie Besant and these people have seen is shown in the middle. And there they have seen 6 big spheres which were divided into 2 triangles. So they were forming triangles, and each big sphere contained 3 small spheres, and those small spheres were moving in different directions. And so in totality, if you see the hydrogen atom which they have seen 100 years ago, when there was no much detail available about this structure of the atom, they have seen these 18 entities and 6 big spheres they have seen. And if you just look at this on the right side, they have tried to see even deeper, and those small spheres, when they amplified, they saw these structures in the in these small structures. Now, this was a big fallacy. What is the meaning of this 18 and what is the meaning of the 6 spheres and all these things? So most of the scientists were not interested in this, but there was one English physicist, his name was Stephen Phillips. He has studied this very seriously, and he just wrote some books also on this. And he said that these small spheres could be parts of quarks. That what we see quarks these days are the small components of proton and neutrons. But he had gone one step further, and he said that there could be parts of the quark, that is subquarks. Now, but we have studied his model in great detail, and we found there was a fallacy in that model. And because he was trying to combine two hydrogen atoms and then trying to explain it through this possibility. Now, what we have done is we have done something different. What we have done is we took the rest masses of the quarks, that is the up quark, down quark, and this electron, which is constituting the hydrogen atom. Now, if you see the first table, then in the second column, up quark, for number 1, the rest mass is about in this million electron volt divided by c square, the velocity of light, it is 2.01. For down quark, it is 4.79. And for electron, it is 0.51. Now, there are two scientists from USA. Their names are Nepe and Close, and I am working with them actually. They have developed a model of this thing, and they call it TDP model, which I will just discuss in detail a little later. They said that quark consists of integral units further, and those integral units are such that if we talk about normalizing the rest mass of the quarks with respect to the rest mass of the electron, then we get the normalized masses as 4, 9, and 1. That is, for up quark it is 4, for down quark it is 9, and for electron it is 1. So quantum equivalent units, the term which they have used is 4 for the up quark, and 9 for the down quark, and 1 for the electron. Now, for the hydrogen atom, you see that it has a proton which consists of just 2 up quarks and 1 down quark, a proton. So for 2 up quark, the number of quantum units will be 8, and for down quark, it will be 1. And so the total rest mass of this hydrogen nucleus will be 8 plus 9 is equal to 17. And if you include electron also, then it will become 18. Now, it was most surprising indeed and very shocking. And this calculation I did when I was there in USA, in California, with my daughter. I was really, for the whole day, I could not just imagine what type of thing it is. So this number is a very strong evidence, powerful evidence that what this 18 they have seen is something like quantum units of what they call now as TDP model, which was developed by 2 American scientists. So this was the number 18. Now, the same thing we then repeated for other atoms also. And you can see this table, number of proton, electrons, neutrons in 20 elements, which we have chosen: aluminum, beryllium, boron, calcium, and chloride, and up to sulfur. The sodium is repeated actually, so please excuse me. And there what we computed this total quantum units, taking the number of this up quark and down quark into account. In the last column, you see for different elements, the number of these total quantum units. And in the next table, if you see, we compare this number of the small sphere. The small sphere they called as anus. So they turned the small spheres as anus. And in this table, you can see that I am comparing the second column is the number of quantum units for these different 20 elements. And in the third column, it is the number of anus. So you can see, and the fourth column shows difference between quantum units and anus. And the last column shows the error in percentage. So you can see that the error in percentage is just around 10% only, around 10%. And average error in present for these 20 elements is 9.25% in the last table. Now, after that, we published this paper, and then we try to compute for all the 92 elements of the periodic table, which were known at that time. That was from hydrogen up to uranium. And for them, we made this graph, which shows that on the x-axis, is the quantum units which we computed from the quark's rest masses, and on the opposite, on the x-axis it is the quantum units, and on the y-axis the number of those small spread, that is anus, on the y-axis for all 92 chemical elements. So we are getting a fantastic correlation between the two. Almost, I would say the R square is equal to our 0.9996 or something like that. Excellent agreement. So it is a very, very powerful evidence, very strong evidence that Anima Siddhi exists, and it is possible that through this we might be able to see the subquark. Now the Large Hadron Collider, which is used to study these quarks and all these things, they have been able to go up to quarks only. If we want to go below that, then we will require very, very high energy. So maybe some people have computed that it would not be even possible to see these subquarks. So what to do? So I will now little cover the scientific aspect of it, and our paper was published. Its reference is given below. So similar thing we have found in Jainism. You will not believe. They have developed a table for measurement of length, and they start with what is known as infinitely many parmanus. These parmanus are different from the word parmanu, which is used in modern science, but they are very small, extremely small, much smaller than the modern parmanus. And using this, they have developed a table. From this table, if you see this 12th step, they on the right side you have that 1 angula. And so we did some approximate calculation, and using this angula, we tried to estimate the size of the smallest particle of matter. And it was again very interesting to see that that value turns out to be around 2.9 into 10 to the power minus 11 centimeter, which is between the size of an atom 10 to the power minus 8 centimeter and size of a nucleus 10 to the power minus 13 centimeter. So this is a separate evidence to show that using clairvoyance. So what Anima Siddhi leads to clairvoyance, a powerful faculty of clairvoyance through which one can see the atomic structure. Very, very powerful evidence. Now, as far as theoretical mechanism is concerned, again, we found something very interesting in Jainism. Jainism, they talk about 6 different types of clairvoyances. And one of the clairvoyances is called Vardhaman Avdigyan. And this Vardhaman Avdigyan exactly describes that through this clairvoyance, one can see the smallest part of space. In Jainism, they talk of quantized space. And that American model which I am talking, they also talk of quantized space. So there is an agreement between the two. So we get an evidence from a different field, completely different field, that Anima Siddhi exists, and one can see the small things, smallest possible things through that. Now at the same time, you will see that Ramanujan was also there in Adyar at that time. And he had blessings of one deity. Her name was Namagiri Thayar. Now, people say that he has written some modular functions, some equations for modular functions, which many of the mathematicians could not even understand what is the meaning of that. But now with this superstring theory, now they are being used. So after 100 years, their applications has been found. Now this is a very big mystery. Probably that was also through clairvoyance or something like that. So we have to examine these things in a big way. Now in the Western world, people are looking at parapsychology in a very serious matter. We Indians should also look at it seriously. They talk about 9 different types of parapsychic processes. And I will not go into the detail of this. You can see afterwards. But using quantum physics now, one has to find out, and a lot of work is going on to link quantum physics with consciousness. What is the role of consciousness in and it is being explained using quantum physics or some interface between the two. Now, some models are coming now which are talking of information which is available, which is present in the universe itself. In the whole universe, it is full of this information or knowledge. So one has to simply extract that information. So some of the models which are there are quantum holography, spin form of quantum gravity, which can store huge information. Then there's a global consciousness project which also talk about this. Then quantum entanglement, which also talk about this. Then Sheldrake, this morphogenetic fields, actually they also show that this memory and information is contained in the universe itself. So these are the some of the areas, and these are the two books now which are recently written by this Deepak Chopra. His title is "You Are the Universe." He has written this book in collaboration with professor of physics. And what they have done is they have done a thorough analysis of the modern science, and they have strongly said that. And I have heard his lecture also live in USA at that time. And they said, you are the universe. That is, you have everything. This is what Indian philosophy also says, that everything is contained in you. Now, these things must be examined very thoroughly. Similarly, this book of Science Set Free by this Rupert Sheldrake, this also shows that we have to go beyond the current science and look into the new frontiers of knowledge. And particularly, they also mention the Indian wisdom, Indian rishis and munis. So we have to take these things very seriously. Now, in this context, I would say that the importance of higher dimension is coming into picture. And there is one scientist, Miko Kaku. He has written a book, Hyperspace, a Scientific Odyssey Through Parallel Universes, Time Warp, and the 10th Dimension. Now, these type of development should be actually examined seriously, because it looks like very strong evidence is there that the higher dimensions are involved in these siddhis. So, and we have to access them. Then this is that model, TDP model I was talking about. What they have done is they have extended the current four-dimensional science. Science generally we talk about today is 3 space coordinate and 1 time coordinate. But they have extended it to 9-dimensional science. And in these 9 dimensions, you will be actually surprised to see that they talk of 3 space dimension. Actually, in the bottom, you can see 3D space dimension, then 3D time dimension. That is, they're talking of time as a 3-dimensional thing. So they are introducing 2 more dimensions of time. And then they are talking of 3 dimensions of consciousness. And these total are 9 dimensions. They have introduced consciousness in a mathematical way in this model. And we have tried to explain this observation of Annie Besant using this model, that if you incorporate consciousness into space and time, then it is possible to explain the observations by Annie Besant. So this is a very big thing. And in the same way, they have also found that consciousness has to be non-physical and non-local with infinite information. And they have arrived at in a scientific way by an analysis of doing this 9-dimensional concept. And this non-local is contained in this concept of consciousness is same as what we find in Indian philosophy, in Hindu philosophy or Bhagavad Gita, and in Jainism, for example. This is a famous slok written below, so you need that what it is actually. No, sorry, it is a different slok. Sorry, by mistake, it is a different one. Sorry. So this is the thing. So finally, I would like to conclude that possibility of viewing quarks and subquarks through Anima Siddhi is possible. The 9-dimensional TDP model of science can provide an explanation of this possibility. Concept of consciousness incorporated in this model appears to be a breakthrough in science. More serious efforts are required to study this system. Now, I do not want to make a tall claim or a big claim, but what I suggest as a scientist, that we must examine these things very, very critically and very carefully and very seriously, because some of these are rare events. And as you know that the whole science is full of rare events only when research is started. Whether it is observation of a new element, observation of a new galaxy, or observation of a new virus, everything is rare in the beginning. So one should not ignore these rare events, one should take them seriously. And India is full of such things. And I have talked to these scientists, and they say that in India you can find thousands of examples of such phenomena which current science ignores. But probably we have to extend the current science to higher dimensions, and that will be able to explain many of the phenomena like astrology, for example, or many phenomena which are unexplained by the current science may be explainable if we introduce higher dimensions into the current science. So I think my time is over, so I will just conclude, and thanks a lot.
Thank you, Dr. Singh, for a very elaborate and a very different kind of a presentation in our program. My first question, we have a few questions and I hope you will take them.
Sure.
The first question is, what is the 3D dimension of time? Very difficult to imagine.
It is three-dimensional time. Now, what we talk about is a physical time actually. Physical time is one which we are measuring actually. Now, what these scientists have defined is two more dimensions of time. Just like in space, we have three dimensions of space, X, Y, and Z. Similarly, they talk of T1, T2, and T3. And these two other dimensions of time are more, actually, they are orthogonal to the physical time, but they have some meaning. Actually, it is more mathematical. The concept is more mathematical. And using this using this nine-dimensional model, they have computed what is known as the quark angle, the quark mixing angle, which is a 50 years old problem, which could not be solved, but that has been solved by this. So using this nine dimension, they have explained many things actually.
So maybe the people from physics and mathematics can appreciate that more. But for
Yeah.
a practical person from biology or from yoga, Ayush system, they
Yeah.
might like to ask how to achieve the Siddhi, how to get the clairvoyance into seeing the
Yeah.
atom.
Yeah, lot of literature is available in our shastras, like the Vedas, Purana, Upanishads, and Jain Agams. I mean, there are 32 Jain Agams are there. A lot of details are available about how to this strict evolution in the field of spirituality, for example, that leads to development of higher stages of consciousness, and using them, the siddhis can be also developed.
So, but can the evidence also be, seen, and is it tangible? Can one really, the scientists really want evidence, as you will agree with me.
Yeah. That is the whole problem actually. That is what you require some different type of methodology. Actually, the current methodology may not work actually. So as I told you, we have to extend the current science actually to study some other phenomena which we are rejecting them. Actually, what is happening? The biological systems are basically irreversible systems and open systems, which are constantly interacting with the environment. Now, whole physics and the whole science is based on what are known as the conservation laws of physics. And they are defined only for closed isolated system. So there is basically a fundamental actually problem. So we require a different procedure to study the biological systems more accurately than what is being done uh, um, actually at the present.
There are many compliments for you, uh, and also some questions. Beautiful presentation, sir. Very
Thank you.
nicely explaining the subject. Other person is saying. Question from Manjari is that,
Right.
do you need any other instrument other than Anima Siddhi to see the quarks?
The instrument means a large hadron collider. Actually, it is being used, and that is the ultimate which is being used to see the quarks. And some quarks have been experimentally observed in those experiments only. But the whole point is, if you want to go to the subquarks, that is the parts of the quarks, then you require very, very large amount of energy. I mean, and this Kakao, his scientist, he has mentioned it, and he said that it will be so large that our I mean, if you increase the size of the larger hadron collider from 27 kilometer to the size of the whole Earth, still it will not be possible. So we have to go to the higher dimensions to see the deeper realities, and that seems to be a reason that why our Rishi Munis have not followed this path of physical sciences. This could be.
Very
So we
interesting.
have to go beyond physical science. Total change in the perspective is need of the hour, particularly actually in view of this COVID problem. We have to go to nature, back to nature.
While on behalf of the Integrative Medicine Case Report, which is basically running this program in the name of Yoga Scholar, we would also like to, use the opportunity to invite you to write a commentary for our journal. That will
Sure,
be, a very simplistic way to inspire our integrative health protagonists.
sure.
Yeah,
I would
and
be
there's
very
a,
happy to do that.
yeah, thank you.
Thank,
The
thank you.
question from Rita Isaac:
Right.
uh, what does quantum theory actually tell us about reality?
Very interesting question. Quantum theory is on today. Some recent experiments have been done.
You can
One,
actually unshare your screen so everybody can see you in the full, if it is possible.
sure.
Unfortunately, I am not able to come on video today, but people can see
Okay.
you.
Yeah.
So the question is, what does quantum theory tell us about? You are fine now. Yes.
Okay. Now this quantum theory is on today, it says that electron or photon, for example, uh, it is neither a particle nor a wave, or it is both particle as well as wave. Now particle wave are two opposite characteristics, contradictory characteristics. So in some experiments it shows the behavior of a particle, and in some other set of experiments it shows the behavior of a wave. So these two opposite characters are inbuilt into the behavior of electron and photon. But now some recent experiments which have been done, they show that actually electron and photon, they don't exist at all. It is our imagination. What exists is something which we do not know. And depending on the type of instrument which we are using, that reality will take that shape. So reality is therefore not objective as it is assumed in science. This is the latest thing, which is described in great detail in these two books also. So what it means is there is a very big thing. What we call as Maya, for example, in our philosophy, it looks like that. I mean, actual reality is something which we do not know, and our experiments are more and more subjective now. They are and less objective. That is what quantum mechanics teaches us. It's completely a new scenario has to be realized. I mean, we otherwise assume that there is an electron like a spherical ball or something like that. This picture is not there now, actually.
Very, very interesting. You are giving a twist to our perception and arousing our curiosity more and
And
more.
I should tell you, that there was a very strong argument between Einstein and Bohr about this issue. Einstein was telling that no, reality exists, electrons and photons, and they exist like spheres and something like that. And Bohr was telling no, it is not like that. They don't exist at all. It is the instrument which changes them into that particular form. Now, these latest experiments which were done after 1982, one Alan Aspect has done one experiment, and afterwards it was repeated by many groups. Now is a conclusively proved now that what we say electron and proton and they don't exist at all. What exists is something else, which we do not know.
Great. So this is going to take you to a little difficult question, perhaps coming from a biologist here, one among the Facebook viewers.
Yeah,
Dr. Kaushal asks that, there are genetic mutations.
right,
Mutations change the structure of DNA. So he
right.
asks if it is possible for Anima Siddhi, with the help of Anima Siddhi, to go inside and turn or reverse that mutation into a normal genomic structure.
Excellent question. Excellent question. Actually, I should tell him that Professor B.D. Josephson, who was Nobel laureate in physics for a Josephson junction tunneling work, he was working on this possibility that whether using mantras, you can bring about a change at the genetic level. Okay, so it might be possible, but I want to tell you something very different actually in this connection. One Russian scientist, Geriev, is there. This Mr. Geriev has developed a new discipline in the field of genetics, which is known as wave genetics. And in this wave genetics, what he has found that what these people are talking about, this information contained in the genetic structure and all those things, that is only 2%. And what is being rejected and being termed as this junk DNA. Junk DNA means which is of no use. Now, what he's found is that junk DNA contains 98% of the information, and that information can be actually extracted or incorporated using waves. That is sound waves and this electromagnetic waves. So he has found evidences also, but this work is not getting actually very strongly recognized, but that actually we should look into it very carefully. If that is correct, then the whole this genetic engineering will change. I mean, the whole thing will change actually, because 98% information can be changed means using these siddhis, because they also involve some kind of vibrations. So through these vibrations, you can give that information. So these are the areas to be explored, I would say.
But this area can be very easily explored because in many, many medical institutes, hundreds and thousands of patients with genetic disorders come,
Yeah,
which are very clear deletion mutations. For example, Duchenne's muscular dystrophy, Becker's muscular dystrophy,
yeah,
and more complex genetic disorders such as even multiple sclerosis, macular degeneration, And many Parkinson's disease also have some sort of a genetic basis, and even cancers have genetic basis.
Now, actually,
So if these
actually,
patients are already there, we can easily test. We can
now
easily.
our ancient, actually, most of the Indians have their own gurus and devs and all that, like that. So some of these gurus tell that you chant this particular mantra, say 11,000 times or 15,000 times. Okay. Now that through that, what is happening is probably what Geriev says, that you are generating some kind of waves in the system which have in very definite band of frequencies which are capable of changing the genetic level also. This could be possible, I mean, worth exploring.
to, to the extent of epigenetic changes, yeah, that is slight changes which are not inheritable, I may still take this up as a research project. But for
Yeah.
mutations that are very concrete, deletion, a severe blow to the genome will delete that particular sequence. I do not know how will that come back.
Now, I would suggest that those who are interested, they should look at the work of wave genetics. It is
Sure,
available on Google, and
sure,
this work of Geriev.
sure.
It was done after 2011.
Sure. So here's another question asking if consciousness has a physical basis, does which part of the brain is consciousness coming from, according to you?
Yeah, actually, consciousness and soul are two different entities. Okay.
Yeah.
So now latest studies which have been done by one scientist, Hambroff from Arizona and his group, he says that what we call as neurons, for example, neurons consist of microtubules, and these microtubules further consist of tubulins. And these tubulins, each neuron has about thousands of these tubulins. And these tubulins act as again a quantum mechanical system. So he has developed a theory, and he claimed that the consciousness comes from the vibrations which are there because of these tubulins associated with thousands of neurons. So that leads to consciousness. That is one model. There are some other models also, but they have some limitation. There are some models which talk of quantum gravity, and they talk of what is known as quantized space-time geometry. So quantum space-time geometry concept was given by Einstein by combining space with time. Now, when we introduce quantum physics, then the space-time geometry gets quantized. And when we go deeper, much deeper, much deeper than the size of electron, for example, then those quantum of space-time geometry can contain information in terms of what is known as spin forms. And those spin forms have huge information. Huge means you can say that and each person has his own space-time geometry. Each person, for example, I have my own space-time geometry which contains huge information, and that information is constantly stored in my space-time geometry. So that, as per that theory, when I am not there, that is still my space-time geometry will be there, and that will be used in deciding my next birth.
Very
So such
interesting.
exciting concepts are now coming
Yeah,
in science also.
but as a biologist, I will, although I'm excited and willing to explore, but I would suspect and doubt this because I would like to know how to quantitate this information. Where does it reside, and can I reconstruct it, and how can I feel and measure it? And like DNA has an double nucleotide, and there are genes to it. There are telomerase, and different genes. So we
Right,
can test them. We can put them in a gel and see them by putting dyes. We
right.
can do electron microscopy and still be able to see the DNA, the structure was solved, and so it's very easy to the Francis and Crick model was there. So these are something which we can
No, no,
see.
I will tell you. No, no, I will tell you an example. What this Geriev has done actually, one of in experiment, he has used laser spectroscopy, and it just threw some this light on the DNA molecule. Okay, and they saw the pattern. I mean, the distribution of these waves in that particular chamber in the presence of DNA molecule. And then what they did, they removed the DNA molecule from that particular actually that container. Okay, and still they found that for a long time they could see for few, I think, minutes or something like that, they could see some pattern existing there in that box even though DNA molecule was not there. So that was the basis on which he put forward the theory that DNA has capability to store information through waves irrespective of that genetic information.
Have information to store what?
DNA has capability to store information through waves. The different, it
Waves.
involves different
Okay.
mechanism, completely different mechanism.
Very interesting.
So that junk DNA, what people call as junk DNA, is not at all a junk DNA, but that contains 98% of the information. And what is known as that ordinary genetic information on this, all these genome projects, and they are there, that contains only 2% information. You kindly, actually, those of you who are interested in this, they must examine this work of this Gary very, very seriously and critically. And there is a need to replicate those experiments in India also.
Sure. So from this entire conversation, when we talk of from the health perspective, from disease perspective and current COVID perspective, do you think there are other methods and pathways to rescue us from our disease?
I will take the example of Annie Besant only. She was a great Siddha actually. Now she was so capable a lady. At a time she was actually editing 12 journals.
Wow.
Okay, and she has written about 300 books. Then she was president of Congress also.
Hmm.
So you can see the capability. Health means efficient utilization of your body and mind. And I think this is an excellent example. Those who are living in these higher stages of consciousness, they are very, very healthy people. I mean, this is my perception. And
Wow.
Annie Besant is an excellent example.
So what do you think yogic practices in some way are able to restore the distorted entropy or change, which are
Yes,
changed
of course, of
mutations?
course, of course. I mean, the time was short. Otherwise, I have some slides also that all spiritual processes leads to decrease in rate of entropy production in the biosphere. Otherwise, if you talk of the modern science, technology, their economic development, economic exploitation, and then the degradation of the environment, if you combine them together in a holistic way, you will find that there is a real, in all the problem of the climate change or sixth extinction of the earth, they are coming because of this concept of reductionist approach of science. And that need a major change is need of the hour. I mean, that is why I am very strong about it. I mean.
Is
And there
anybody
are several
working?
scientists who are talking about it now.
But is anybody in India working on this ISRO or
Yes,
NASA?
some of my friends are there. Dr. Narendra Bhandari, for example, who was the first person to start the Chandrayaan project, for example. He is
Correct.
working with me actually. Actually, I am working with him, and we are having a small group here in Ahmedabad, and some people are there in Udaipur, and some are there in Bangalore also. So I mean, they believe in it. There is one professor, Shishir Roy, for example, he is in Bangalore National Institute of Advanced Studies. He believes in the work of this of Annie Besant. There is another Professor Srinivasan in Madras who was head of physics department in BRC, Baba Atomic Research Center, about several years ago. He believes strongly in the work of this Annie Besant. There is one Professor Singh, he is a chemistry, he is a man of chemistry. He believes in that. There is one person, Brandon Murphy. He strongly believes in that. And my two scientists, two American scientists, with whom I have written a big paper about 65 pages on this particular
Any
topic.
biologist working in this area?
Biologist, I don't know.
Probably not. So we would like to connect and
Yeah, that is,
unify our programs. And the
yeah,
final, it's in the interest of time, we had an excellent conversation, and thank you for being with us. I will now ask a little different question, which probably is asked to a
sure,
person from physics, I think, quite frequently.
right.
Can we go back in time? That's the last question for you.
Yes, very much possible. And there are experimental evidences by one of my friend in Holland. He has done an experiment also that in biological systems, in not in physical system, but in biological systems, it is possible to move backward in time. It means information can flow backward in time. I am very specifically answering this question that information can flow backward in time in biological systems. And that is the reason we can explain the process of parapsychology.
Mhm. So go back in time in biological system means.
System. No, no. Go back in time means I am saying information can flow back in time in the negative time direction. So you know something in advance actually.
I
Suppose
see.
you see a dream that something has happened with you or with your relative, for example. Okay, you are seeing it today, and that will actually take place after 3 days or 4 days or something like that. And then you suddenly recollect that, oh, that you have seen that particular thing in your dream. So there are hundreds of such studies which are there, and the whole parapsychology is based on this. So you can see something in advance.
Yeah.
That means that signal information can come in the minus time direction.
Great. So I think this is time to say goodbye and thank you very much, and lot of treasure for hypothesis and new experimentation and collaboration between physicists and biologists. We will really cherish it, and we are also hopeful that you will submit a small commentary for our journal Integrative Medicine case report. So we will bring
Sure,
in this dimension to this
sure.
team of biologists, whether they are physicians, Ayush people, yoga people, life
Yeah.
scientists, or whosoever they are. Thank you very much. Thanks a
Sure.
lot, and
Thank
we'll
you. You
reconnect.
also,
And
अक्षय जी, अक्षय
थैंक यू
आनंद
वेरी
जी, थैंक
मच।
बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद आपको, बहुत
धन्यवाद
अच्छा
आपका,
लगा,
बहुत
मुझे भी बहुत अच्छा लगा।
धन्यवाद,
बहुत
धन्यवाद, नमस्कार।
थैंक